Carlos Alcaraz still doesn't understand the Sinner match. A week after the magical final against Jannik Sinner, Carlos Alcaraz still can't comprehend how he won the Roland Garros final, especially how he managed to save the 3 match points against him. It's been a week since Carlos Alcaraz etched his name in golden letters in the history of world tennis by defeating Jannik Sinner in one of the greatest matches ever. 5 hours and 29 minutes of battle, in which the Mercian came back from 2 sets down to retain his crown in Paris and extend his Grand Slam lead over the Italian, who had won the previous 2. He also put an end to a very inconsistent run and proved that, despite the doubts surrounding his image and his way of seeing life in tennis, he's still one of the greatest. If there's a moment to highlight from the 329 minutes of the match, it's undoubtedly when Carlitos had to deal with 3 match points against him in the 4th set. At that moment, it seemed like he was done, but then he drew on his fighting spirit to reverse an almost impossible situation. A feat that even now, a week later, he admits he doesn't quite understand how he pulled off. I still look at my phone, the press, and watch videos of the match against Sinner and how I managed to survive the match points, and honestly, I don't understand how I could win. Despite everything he has achieved in his still short career, Carlos admits he still goes into shock when he stops to think about what he accomplished, to the point that sometimes he's not fully aware that he's the Roland Garros champion. But yes, he is, and not just once, but twice, and if it hadn't been for cramps in that 2023 semifinal, he could even have 3 Musketeers Cups. Now, onto the grass. While he's still processing the tremendous triumph, and after a stop in Ibiza to relax for a few days, Alcaraz now has to get back to work. This Tuesday he will debut at Queen's, but the real goal is what comes next. From June 30th to July 13th, the second major of the season, Wimbledon, will take place. At the All England Lawn Tennis Club, the man from El Palmar defends his title, and after what happened in Paris, Sinner will be fiercely hungry to take it from him, along with Novak Djokovic, Jack Draper, and others who may join the chase. Carlos Alcaraz jokes about his last party in Ibiza, "My body can't handle it anymore." It's been a week since Carlos Alcaraz lifted the Roland Garros trophy after beating Italian Jannik Sinner in a historic final. The Mercian celebrated his victory in style and, as he likes to do, went to Ibiza to enjoy a few days of peace and partying. The Spanish tennis player had a great time, although he confirms with a laugh that he only went out one night. In statements to AFA, he talked about his vacation in Ibiza after winning Roland Garros a week ago. "It was fun, but this year was calmer than last. Last year was wilder. I went out the first day and didn't go out at night the next 2 days. I was in bed by 12 on Tuesday and Wednesday, although I did go out in the afternoon. I'm getting older and my body can't handle it anymore," said Alcaraz with a laugh. A tradition for Carlos Alcaraz. The trip to Ibiza has become a tradition for the Spaniard, although he received criticism last year for doing it, as it supposedly meant his preparation for Queen's wasn't adequate. Nevertheless, weeks later he won Wimbledon, and this year he repeated the tradition, with the approval of many who, after enjoying his spectacular victory over Jannik Sinner at Roland Garros, encouraged him to go wherever he wanted. There are situations where many people won't agree, even if you think they will, but they don't. But in life, I want to make my own mistakes. I'm happy that this year people told me to go wherever I wanted, to disconnect, because support helps in certain situations. We learn every year, and maybe in a few years I won't be able to go, but right now, these moments to disconnect are really beneficial, said Alcaraz. Decisive change at Wimbledon noted by Alcaraz, Sinner, and Djokovic. Wimbledon announced a prize of £3 million, €3.5 million, for the 2025 singles champions, in a tournament that will take place from June 30th to July 13th at London's All England Club. The Grass Court Grand Slam also confirmed 2 major changes. Following the general rule of the tour, one that only Roland Garros has refused to adopt, umpiring will be electronic. But it's the other decision that top contenders like the 2023 and 2024 champion Carlos Alcaraz, the dethroned finalist Novak Djokovic, and world number 1 Jannik Sinner are most focused on. All 3 aim to reach Sunday, July 13th, where Alcaraz and Djokovic will have to change their habits if they make it again. The schedule for the singles finals is moving back 2 hours. Previously set for 2 p.m. local time on Saturday and Sunday, it now moves to 4 p.m. in London, 5 p.m. Spanish time. If a match goes long, it could even mean closing the roof and turning on the lights, something that would drastically change the playing conditions, as already happens when it rains. Saturday will start with the men's doubles final at 1 p.m. local time, 2 p.m. in Spain, and Sunday will feature the women's doubles final at the same time. The goal is to improve the experience for everyone involved. Doubles players will be able to plan better, and fans will have more time to enjoy the day at Wimbledon before the matches begin, plus the champions will be crowned in front of the largest possible audience, said Sally Bolton, chief executive of the All England Club, in statements collected by AFA. Bolton also said that Wimbledon has no plans to add a 15th day to its calendar, as Roland Garros has done with its new opening Sunday. Wimbledon increases its prizes. Carlos Alcaraz could earn $1 million more than at Roland Garros. Wimbledon, the third Grand Slam of the season, kicks off on June 30th. Its champions will receive a record-breaking prize, surpassing last year's, when Carlos Alcaraz defeated Novak Djokovic and took home about €3.2 million. The tournament announced on Thursday that it will distribute €62.8 million in total prize money, 7% more than last year and double what it handed out in 2015. All England Club president Deborah Jevons revealed the details of the 2025 edition in a press conference, highlighting the continuous increase in prizes. Wimbledon will award €3.5 million to its champions, which is 11% more than what Carlos Alcaraz and Barbora Krejcikova received in 2024. That's €1 million more than what Carlos Alcaraz and Coco Gauff earned for winning Roland Garros just a few days ago. Players who reach the first round will receive £66,000, €77,500, 10% more than last year. The challenge in tennis is that players don't get the rest they need, and injuries are increasing constantly. We've always said that Wimbledon is willing to talk with the tours to find solutions, and that door remains open, she said, highlighting not just the financial effort. Additionally, the singles finals will be moved from 2 p.m., local time, on the final weekend to 4 p.m., local time, and line judges will be replaced permanently by a real-time electronic system, a decision that Roland Garros resisted last month. Meanwhile, Wimbledon's major project remains the planned expansion into neighboring Wimbledon Park, which would add 39 more grass courts, but is currently embroiled in legal battles. Although construction permits were granted, a local protest group has filed for a judicial review, which will be heard by the High Court during the tournament's second week. Nadal responds to Alcaraz being inspired by him for the comeback. If he can already think of me. Rafa Nadal spoke about the recent Roland Garros final, where Carlos Alcaraz came back from 2 sets down against Jannik Sinner, during the charity golf tournament The Battle of the Stars in support of ALS patients. For the 14-time champion, it was a historic match, and he felt flattered that the Mercian thought of him, if he's already capable of thinking of me. This edition of Roland Garros, which served as a tribute to Rafa Nadal, retired since late last year, couldn't have ended better for Spanish tennis, with Carlos Alcaraz repeating as champion after an epic comeback from an almost impossible match against Jannik Sinner. A special tribute to the man who won the Musketeers Cup 14 times, who commented on the final while playing golf in Mallorca, alongside his uncle Tony. Nadal had no hesitation in praising the historic match played by Alcaraz and Sinner. It was truly a spectacular final, very exciting. In the end, seeing him lift the trophy after having been so close to losing to Jannik, I was really happy for him, said the Mallorcan ex-player. He also thanked Alcaraz for his comments about being inspired by him in the comeback. I haven't seen it, but if he's already capable of thinking of me in that moment, I'm really happy for him. The players who are consistently ahead of the rest, proving to be great champions, they'll make their own way. That's the reality. I think tennis is in good hands in that regard, he said, acknowledging the handover from the Big Three to the new generation led by Alcaraz and Sinner, the two most dominant players on the ATP Tour today. The 22-time Grand Slam champion experienced his first edition of Roland Garros as a regular spectator since debuting in 2005. For Rafa, it was special to see a place that was so important in my sporting life and just enjoy the tennis. That's my reality, my new reality, without thinking beyond that, so he didn't miss playing in the tournament that bears his name more than any other. Wimbledon to award the highest cash prize in Grand Slam history. The All England Club will deliver a record-breaking cash prize to the winners in both the men's and women's categories. With the legendary Roland Garros final between Jannik Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz still fresh in the minds of tennis fans, the third Grand Slam of the season is already approaching. Wimbledon will be held from June 30th to July 13th at the iconic All England Lawn Tennis and Croquet Club, and Carlos Alcaraz will aim for his third title at the so-called Cathedral of Tennis, after winning in both 2023 and 2024. The London Grand Slam has been played since 1877 and only stopped during the two World Wars, 1915 to 1918 and 1940 to 1945, and the COVID-19 pandemic, 2020. Just over half a month before the third major of the season begins, the prize money for the men's and women's champions is already known. The British Grand Slam will award £3 million, €3.5 million, to the champions in the 2025 edition, an 11% increase over last year and the highest prize ever awarded in Grand Slam history. To put it in perspective, Carlos Alcaraz received €2.55 million for winning his second Roland Garros last Sunday, nearly $1 million less than he would earn if he wins Wimbledon for the third time in his career. In total, the All England Lawn Tennis and Croquet Club will distribute £53.5 million, €62.8 million, in prizes, 7% more than in the 2024 edition and double what was awarded a decade ago. Also, players who reach the first round will receive £66,000, €77,500, a 10% increase compared to last year. The draw for Wimbledon's main draw in both the men's and women's categories will take place on June 27. Jannik Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz will attend as number 1 and 2, respectively, meaning they can only meet in a hypothetical final on Sunday, July 13. Carlos Alcaraz and Djokovic in danger. The grass court season has already begun, and the Spanish and Serbian players, along with Lorenzo Musetti, are the ones who earned the most points last year. Therefore, they will have to keep a close eye on their competitors in the ATP rankings. The grass season has started with smaller tournaments that serve, without a doubt, to prepare for the major event, Wimbledon. And in this run-up, two players will face the most pressure, Carlos Alcaraz and Novak Djokovic. They are the ones who earned the most points last season, thanks mainly to the British Grand Slam. The Spanish player earned 2,050 points, 2,000 from his London title. The Serbian, for his part, got 1,300, with 1,200 coming from reaching the final. Therefore, both the Mercian and the Serbian will have to earn as many points as possible in all tournaments to have a cushion in case of early elimination at Wimbledon. In fact, it will be difficult for them to improve in this grass court swing unless they repeat their exact results from last year and do better in events where they didn't win. For Carlos, that means winning Wimbledon again and going past the third round at Queen's, which is where he stopped last year. Noel, on the other hand, must at least reach the final again if he doesn't want to risk losing his number 5 ranking. The third player who earned the most points last year was Lorenzo Musetti, right behind Djokovic in the standings. The Italian earned 1,230 points, 720 of which came from his semi-final against the Serbian at Wimbledon. On the opposite end, within the top 10, those with the best chances to benefit from this swing are Danish player Holger Rune, who only earned 200 points, Brit Jack Draper and German Alexander Zverev, who earned 400 each, and American Taylor Fritz and Australian Alex de Minaur, who each earned 650.